Hi, this is Francisco Pulgar-Vidal with fkiQuality, and today I would like to speak with you about the fact that Lean means achieving an agile workflow.
I'll use the example of going to a doctor. In this example, there are 4 players or roles, which are shown here in a swim lane diagram. The story starts at the top left with the patient not feeling well. The first step is to go to a doctor, who will examine the patient and order some lab work. The second step is to go to the lab, where a technician will take samples of the patient's blood and put them in vials to take for various analyses. The third step is to analyze the blood samples and produce a lab report. The fourth step is the doctor referring us to a specialist. With all the info from the first exam and the lab, we go to the specialist, who will examine our history and ourselves and gives us an appropriate treatment plan and a prescription, the last step.
So this simplified story of going to a doctor can help us make 2 points here. One is the notion of what we may call resource efficiency. Resource efficiency focuses on and measures how we are utilizing all the resources in this story. The resources being the doctor, the lab technicians, and the lab equipment, and anything else, and the time of the specialist, etc., that any of the various players and equipment which are part of the story. Now, if you were to speak with any of them, they will very likely tell you, well, I am totally busy. Every single day I'm busy. The doctor can maybe sees 10, 12, 15, 20 patients and spends many hours working. The specialist as well. The lab is continually taking patients and producing vials and samples and reports being written. So there's no rest. And yet when you ask the question of almost anybody as to how long does it take to go through this process, it seems like it's a very slow process. That contrasts, therefore, the notion of what we may call flow efficiency. Flow efficiency is satisfying the needs of the unit that flows. If we were to imagine, like this person and his or her dossier or documentation kind of flows through all of these tasks and various things are happening, that flow takes a certain amount of time, which is very different from the amount of time that actually is spent by each resource to take care of this person. So the notion of flow efficiency is very different from resource efficiency. And one of the things that we need to achieve with the notion of Lean is to put more of a focus on flow efficiency, try to balance the two so that the needs of the person who's flowing through this, right, who's being taken care of, who's receiving the healthcare, the experience of that this person is one that is faster than what it is traditionally experienced. If we were to look at any of the numbers here, and again, I'm going to be simplifying things quite a bit, we could say that there's a certain amount of time that is spent in all of these tasks.
So, every healthcare giver is working fast to take care of you and the next patient. How much time does a doctor spend with a patient in a standard consult? No more than 15 minutes. How long does it take to draw blood from the arm and fill a couple of vials? No more than 5 minutes. Let's say the analysis in our example takes 60 minutes to complete. The doctor takes no more than 5 minutes to read the lab results and refers to a specialist. How long does the specialist take to read our story, examine us, and make sense of our condition? No more than 25 minutes. All these tasks add up to 110 minutes of care received by us, the patient. All these tasks are desirable and necessary, so we will call them value added. From a personal point of view, how long may it take to schedule and make all these medical visits? How long for the doctor's order to go to the lab? How many days will pass until the lab results get back to the doctor? And are they the correct results? then how long for the doctor to issue the referral? With the referral, how much time it takes to get an appointment with the specialist? All these delays create a very different picture. Most people I've spoken with recall that it took them between 1 and 3 weeks. Let's say that a patient will go from sad phase to happy phase in about 2 weeks. This is called lead time.
And so what we want to calculate now is what is known as the process cycle efficiency. How efficient was this whole experience from the point of view of the unit that flows through the organization, through this whole process? That is the patient, which after all is the end customer here, or the one that actually needs all of this to happen. So the amount of time that actually we receive care amounts to 110 minutes in this story. But it takes a whole 2 weeks to actually make that happen. So this discrepancy or this difference is something that is expressed in using the notion of something called process cycle efficiency. And process cycle efficiency is going to be calculated as taking the value added time, which is what we really wanted to get, divided by the amount of time that it took us to actually get it. So this is going to mean that we're going to have the following fraction. This process cycle efficiency is going to be equal to 110 minutes divided by the 2 weeks. The 2 weeks, sometimes when we have this discussion, people will say, well, how many days in a week? Because obviously we need to go from 2 weeks to days to hours to minutes, right? So we can divide the two numbers and we can have a minimal fraction. And there is sometimes a little bit of a debate as to should we select a week that is made of 5 days? Well, 6 days? Well, how many days do the doctors work? Well, are you going to go to a hospital that is open 7 days? Are you going to go to a doctor's office, which maybe is only working, let's say, only from Monday through Saturday, or maybe even Monday to Friday? But in reality, we always need to look at this as 7 days. And the reason is this, is because we're thinking about the patient, right? If you're sick, you're sick. If you're hurting, you're hurting. If you're in pain, you're in pain. It doesn't matter if it's a Sunday. It doesn't matter if the doctor is open or not. You're still sick. You're still anxious to receive an answer. So we always take the point of view of the patient, which is another way of saying, more generally speaking, that you always take the point of view of the customer. So we will take the 2 weeks, multiply by 7 days, by 24 hours, by 60 minutes, and this is going to give us a total amount of 20,160 minutes. And then the ratio of this is going to be 0.0055. And so we see that actually this is a very inefficient process from the point of view of the patient, which is the one that really matters. Not so from the point of view of the doctors, of course, or any of the other resources. In order to make this number seem a little more comprehensible, perhaps we can just transform this into percentage. It may be more comprehensible, but it's not going to make us feel any better. In order to do this, then you will just multiply this by 100, which is kind of moving the decimal place 2 to the right. And so now you have found that we actually have a process that is 0.55% efficient, which is dramatically inefficient. So having just calculated PCE, or the process cycle efficiency value, which is value added divided by lead time, I just want to make sure that we remember that the value that we're looking at here is an extremely low value and therefore should kind of really moves us to action. The number we're looking at here is barely above 1/2%, meaning that there is a tremendous upside and a tremendous opportunity to make things better. How much better could things be? That is kind of open to our imagination, right? And that's exciting and that's nice. Well, actually, there are situations where this type of medical healthcare services could be provided at a much, much faster speed. I have been at times in a Latin American country where there is a facility where there are many specialties together, and the times of communication, the delays in communication, the amount of time spent walking as a patient, or the amount of times that are wasted with paperwork going from one place to another are greatly reduced. These, by the way, are what in Lean are usually known as muda or waste. We just talk about 3 types of waste: the waste of waiting, the waste of motion, the waste of transportation. How does that happen? Instead of having to spend 2 weeks of lead time to make this, to go through all these steps, you just show up there, let's say at 7 a.m., you get a ticket that says, well, I need to see a certain doctor, a general practitioner that will do a first checkup on me. And then this doctor, you go to the office of this doctor with this piece of paper. You are maybe the first or the second in line because it's early in the morning. You show up, you wait a little bit. The doctor then will see you. 10, 15 minutes later, now you have an order for the lab. You walk to the lab. You take care of your own paperwork. There is no need for sophisticated information networks. There is no need for a whole series of protocols of protection of privacy. You just take the paper inside of an envelope and it is protected, and that's all you need. You go to a lab, the blood is drawn, the analyses are made, you wait. Now you finally can have breakfast maybe because you just got your blood and your blood sample. While you're waiting, an hour and a half after that, the results are done. You go back, you pick up the results yourself, take it to a doctor. The doctor makes you wait 10, 15 minutes again while he's finishing with another patient. And now you have the referral, which basically is go a couple steps upwards. If you're on the second floor, now go to the fourth floor of the building, see the specialist that you need. The specialist sees you, and now you're done. And around 11 a.m., you have your prescription, you have your treatment plan, and you walk to the pharmacy, which also happens to be in the same general building, and now you have everything that you need to be on your way to health. How much time has been spent? 4 hours. 4 hours is 240 minutes. What type of ratio, therefore, we would have over here? You still got the same amount of care, the same quality of care, the same amount of time that was dedicated to you. So the numerator is not going to change. If anything, the only thing that changes is the amount of time that it took you to get that care. Instead of over 20,000 minutes, now we're talking about 240 minutes, which is going to give us a ratio now of 0.4583, or to round up, approximately 46%. So what we now have is a process that is about 46% efficient, meaning that almost 1/2 of the time that you spend there in this facility, you actually are getting that thing for which you went, which was healthcare, instead of just a tiny bit, a tiny portion, less than 1% of the time being attended to and being cared for. So what I'm presenting to you is a process that is 84 times faster than the original one that we discussed first. 84 times faster. So it is possible. This is what in Lean, or rather this is sort of like the application of what in Lean is known as cellular work, which is when you bring all of the specialties, all of the skills needed in order to accomplish a certain task, and you bring them to be in close proximity, physically or virtually, but in such a way that they all work together in a synchronous way, and the work is passed seamlessly from one workstation to the next one, from one doctor to the next one, from one lab to the next one, and so on and so forth. And so wait times and transportation times and motion times and effort are greatly reduced. So it is possible, and this is exactly what Lean is about. It's the optimization of the flow of the units that go through the process itself. A lot of our work is going to be about the reduction of this waste, this muda, that really gets in the way of providing great service to any of our customers, and to provide great flow to any unit of work that needs to go through our system of production. Thank you for your time.